The sound of my PlayStation hitting the hardwood floor was like a gunshot in the cramped mill apartment. I watched $300 worth of electronics scatter across the room while Melissa stood over the wreckage, chest heaving like she'd just run a marathon. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. There, she screamed, mascara streaking down her cheeks in black rivers. How does that feel, Derek? How does it feel to lose something you care about? I pulled out my phone and hit record. Well, let's see. That's a PlayStation 5. Retail value $299. The controller that just bounced off the wall, another $70. Are you seriously filming me right now? Melissa's voice cracked with disbelief. Documentation purposes, I said, keeping my voice steady as I panned across the destruction. My 55-inch TV lay face down on the floor, the screen spider-webbed with cracks. The coffee table I'd built myself was split down the middle where she'd kicked it. This is like watching a nature documentary. Here we observe the wild narcissist in her natural habitat, destroying everything in sight when she doesn't get her way. Melissa grabbed my favorite coffee mug, the one my dad gave me before he died, and hurled it at the brick wall. It exploded into ceramic shrapnel. Stop talking like that. Stop being so damn cold about everything. She was sobbing now, but the tears felt performative. Everything about Melissa was performative these days. I came here to talk about us, about our marriage, and you just sit there like a robot. Talk? I kept filming as she picked up a kitchen knife from the counter. Is that what we're calling this? Because from where I'm standing, this looks more like a one-woman demolition crew. She drove the blade into my kitchen table, the steel biting deep into the oak. Maybe if you actually listened to me instead of making your stupid jokes all the time, we wouldn't be here. I'm listening now. What exactly are you trying to tell me, Melissa? She yanked the knife free and pointed it at me. For a second, I wondered if she'd actually lost it completely. But then she threw it aside and collapsed onto my couch, sobbing into her hands. I can't do this anymore, Derek. I can't pretend everything's okay when it's not. We're broken. We've been broken for months. I stopped recording and sat down across from her, careful to avoid the glass scattered across the floor. So you decided to break my apartment too? Don't. She looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. Don't make this into a joke. Not this time. Then help me understand. What happened tonight? You went out with your sister Katie for dinner, and you come back here like a hurricane. What changed? Melissa wiped her nose with the back of her hand. Katie made me realize some things, about what I deserve, about what I'm settling for. Katie. Of course. Melissa's older sister, the one with the MBA and the corner office and the BMW she never let anyone forget about. Katie, who'd never liked me from day one because I worked construction instead of pushing papers in some corporate tower. And what exactly did Katie help you realize? That I'm 28 years old, and I'm married to a guy who inspects building foundations for a living, that I could be doing so much more with my life if I wasn't tied down to someone with no ambition. The words hit harder than I expected. We'd been together for 6 years, married for 3, and she'd never talked like this before. Sure, we'd had our problems. What couple didn't? But this felt different. Final. So what are you saying, Melissa? She stood up, stepping carefully around the broken glass. I'm saying I want a divorce. The apartment fell silent, except for the rain hammering against the windows. I looked around at the destruction. My destroyed TV, my father's broken mug, the knife still stuck in the table. Okay, I said finally. But you're paying for all this. Melissa's jaw dropped. Are you serious right now? I just told you I want a divorce, and you're worried about your stuff? My stuff that you just destroyed in a fit of rage, yeah. I stood up and grabbed a notepad from the kitchen counter. Let's see. PlayStation 5, $299. Wireless controller, $70. Samsung 55-inch TV, $800. Coffee mug, well, that one's priceless, but I'll settle for $50 since it was handmade pottery. Kitchen table repair, probably $200. You're insane. Am I? Because last I checked, destroying someone's property was still illegal, even if you're married to them. I kept writing. Coffee table I built myself, let's say $300 for materials and labor. Cleaning up all this glass, another $50. Melissa grabbed her purse from the floor. I'm not paying you a dime, Derek. Sue me. Don't tempt me. She headed for the door, then turned back. You know what your problem is? You think everything's a transaction. Everything has a price tag. That's why this marriage failed, because you can't put a price on love, and you never learned how to give it away for free. And your problem, I said, is that you think love means never having to face consequences for your actions. But guess what? Everything has a price, Melissa. Everything. She slammed the door so hard the walls shook. I stood there for a long moment, looking around at the wreckage of my apartment and my marriage. Then I sat back down and finished writing out the invoice. 3 days later, I was standing outside Katie's downtown condo building with an envelope in my hand. The doorman, a guy about my age in a uniform that probably cost more than I made in a week, looked me up and down like I was there to rob the place. "I'm here to see Katie Morrison," I said. "Tell her it's Derek Sullivan." "Is she expecting you?" "She will be." 20 minutes later, Katie emerged from the elevator wearing yoga pants and an attitude. Even dressed down, she managed to look like she was heading to a board meeting. It was a gift, really. "Derek, what do you want?" "To deliver this." I held out the envelope. "Since Melissa won't return my calls." Katie crossed her arms. "She doesn't want to talk to you. Can't you respect that?" "I can respect it, but I can't ignore the fact that she owes me money." I opened the envelope and pulled out the itemized invoice I'd typed up. $1,469 in property damage. I've got video evidence and photos of everything. Katie glanced at the paper and laughed. "You're billing my sister for breaking up with you? That's pathetic, even for you." "I'm billing her for destruction of property. The breakup was free." "She was emotional, Derek. People say and do things they don't mean when they're upset." "Do they?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the video I'd taken. "Because this looks pretty intentional to me." Katie watched for about 30 seconds before handing the phone back. "Fine. She broke some of your stuff. Consider it payment for 3 years of putting up with your attitude." "That's not how the law works, Katie. You can't just destroy someone's property because you're having feelings. And you can't just hand someone a bill because they hurt your feelings." I looked around the lobby, marble floors, crystal chandelier, fresh flowers on every table. "You know what's funny? You and Melissa always talked about me like I was the one holding her back, like I was some kind of anchor dragging her down. But look where she is now." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means she's crashing on your couch and dodging process servers while I'm the one with a steady job and his own place. So who exactly was holding who back?" Katie's face flushed. "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about, don't I? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like your sister traded a marriage for a spot on your sofa. Real step up in the world." "Get out." Katie's voice was ice cold. "Get out before I call security." "I'm going." "But Katie?" I held up the invoice. "This doesn't go away just because you don't like it. Melissa owes me money, and I'm going to collect it one way or another." I left the envelope on the marble table and walked out. That night, I got a text from my buddy Jake. "Heard about you and Melissa. Sorry, man. Want to grab a beer?" Jake and I had been friends since high school. He was the best man at my wedding, the guy who helped me move into the apartment, the one who taught me how to build that coffee table Melissa had destroyed. If anyone would understand what I was going through, it would be Jake. I met him at Murphy's, our usual spot downtown, but the moment I walked in, I could tell something was wrong. Jake was sitting at our regular table with 2 other guys, Tom and Brian, also from our old crew. They all looked uncomfortable. "Hey," I said, sliding into the empty chair. "Thanks for coming out." "Yeah, about that." Jake wouldn't meet my eyes. "We need to talk." "Okay, talk." Tom cleared his throat. "We heard about what happened with you and Melissa." "I figured. News travels fast in this town." "The thing is," Brian said, "we also heard about what you've been doing since then." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "What I've been doing?" "Come on, Derek." Jake finally looked at me. "Serving her with papers, stalking her sister, making a scene at Katie's building. I delivered an invoice for property damage. That's not stalking." "You filmed her having a breakdown and then tried to extort money from her," Tom said. "That's pretty messed up, man." "Extort?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "She destroyed my apartment. I have every right to—" "To what?" Jake interrupted. "To humiliate her? To make her life hell because she doesn't want to be married to you anymore? Is that what she told you? That I'm making her life hell?" The 3 of them exchanged looks. Brian nodded. "Katie called my wife, said you've been harassing them, showing up at Katie's work, calling at all hours, threatening legal action." "I haven't called anyone at all hours, and I haven't been to Katie's work." "Look, Derek," Jake said, "we've been friends for a long time, but what you're doing to Melissa isn't okay. She's scared of you." "Scared of me?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "She's the one who came to my place with a knife. She's the one who destroyed everything I owned. But somehow I'm the scary one?" "You're the one who won't let it go," Tom said. Marriages end, man. It sucks, but it happens. You can't sue your way back into someone's heart. I don't want back into her heart. I want my $1,400. Jake shook his head. Listen to yourself. You're talking about your wife like she's some stranger who owes you money. Ex-wife, and she does owe me money. This is exactly what we're talking about, Brian said. You've turned into someone we don't recognize. The Derek we knew wouldn't do this to someone he loved. The Derek you knew wouldn't have had his entire life destroyed by someone he trusted either. Jake stood up. I think you should go. What? I think you should leave, Derek, and I think you should stay away from Melissa and Katie, and maybe think about getting some help. I looked around the table at 3 guys I'd considered my best friends. So that's it? She tells you her version of the story and you just cut me off? It's not about taking sides, Tom said, but he wouldn't look at me. Isn't it? I stood up. Because it sure feels like you've already chosen. I left $40 on the table and walked out. Behind me, I could hear them talking in low voices, but I didn't turn around. Outside, I sat in my truck for a long time, watching people go in and out of Murphy's. Normal people having normal conversations with friends who didn't abandon them the first time things got complicated. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Stop harassing my family, or we'll get a restraining order. Melissa. She'd blocked my regular number, so she was probably using Katie's phone. I typed back, pay what you owe, and you'll never hear from me again. The response came immediately. Go to hell. I put the phone away and started the truck. If that's how she wanted to play it, fine. But she was going to learn that actions have consequences, whether she liked it or not. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in small claims court with a folder full of evidence and a lawyer I couldn't really afford. Melissa was across the aisle with Katie and some guy in an expensive suit who kept whispering in her ear. Judge Patricia Williams looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. She'd probably seen 1,000 cases like this. Bitter divorces spilling over into property disputes. People who used to love each other now fighting over money. Mr. Sullivan, she said, you're claiming that the defendant owes you $1,469 in property damage. Can you walk me through your evidence? I stood up and pulled out my phone. Your Honor, I have video footage of the defendant destroying my property, as well as photographs of the damage and receipts for replacement costs. The judge watched the video with no expression. Melissa's lawyer, some hotshot Katie had hired, kept objecting, but Judge Williams waved him off. The defendant was clearly in emotional distress, the lawyer said when the video finished. This was a domestic dispute, not a criminal act. Emotional distress doesn't give someone the right to destroy property, I said. If I went to her place and broke her stuff because I was upset, I'd be in jail. Judge Williams nodded. Mr. Sullivan has a point. Mrs. Sullivan, do you dispute that you caused this damage? Melissa stood up, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Your Honor, my husband, my ex-husband, he's been stalking me and my family since I asked for a divorce. This lawsuit is just another way to control me. That's not true, I said. I delivered 1 invoice and filed 1 lawsuit. That's not stalking, that's collecting a debt. He showed up at my sister's workplace, Melissa said. He's been calling and texting at all hours. He filmed me without my consent during the most traumatic moment of my life. I filmed someone destroying my apartment, I corrected, in my own home, which is completely legal. Judge Williams held up a hand. Mrs. Sullivan, regardless of any other issues between you and your ex-husband, do you dispute that you caused the property damage shown in this video? Melissa's lawyer whispered something in her ear. She shook her head. No, Your Honor, but... Then you owe him for the damages, Judge Williams said. Mr. Sullivan, your receipts appear to be in order. Mrs. Sullivan, you're ordered to pay the plaintiff $1,469 within 30 days. I felt a surge of satisfaction, but it was short-lived. However, the judge continued, I'm also issuing a mutual restraining order. Both parties are to have no contact with each other or each other's family members except through attorneys. Melissa's lawyer smiled. Thank you, Your Honor. Outside the courthouse, Katie was waiting by a black BMW. She looked furious. Congratulations, Derek. You got your money. I hope it was worth it. It wasn't about the money, Katie. It was about the principle. The principle? She laughed bitterly. The principle of what? Punishing someone for not loving you anymore? The principle that actions have consequences. Something your sister never learned. You want to talk about consequences? Katie stepped closer. Let's talk about consequences. Your friends won't speak to you. Your neighbors think you're a psycho. Half the town knows you as the guy who sued his own wife for breaking up with him. And the other half knows me as the guy who stood up for himself when someone tried to walk all over him. Katie shook her head. You're pathetic. Melissa dodged a bullet when she left you. She got in the BMW and drove off, leaving me standing on the courthouse steps alone. That night, I went back to Murphy's. I told myself I was just getting dinner, but really I wanted to see if Jake and the others were there. Maybe now that I'd won in court, they'd understand that I'd been right all along. They were at our old table, but when I walked over, the conversation stopped. "Hey," I said. Jake looked up. "Derek, I thought you had a restraining order. Against Melissa, not you guys." "Still," Tom said, "maybe you should find somewhere else to drink. This is my bar, too. I've been coming here longer than any of you." "And now you're the guy who films his wife having a breakdown and then sues her for it," Brian said. "People talk, Derek. They know what you did." "What I did? What about what she did?" "She asked for a divorce," Jake said. "That's not a crime?" "And then she destroyed my apartment. And then you made sure the whole world knew about it." Jake stood up. "Look, man, I tried to be your friend through this. We all did. But you've gone too far." "How have I gone too far? I won in court today. The judge agreed with me." "The judge awarded you money," Tom said. "That doesn't make you right." I looked around the table at faces that had once been friendly, now cold and distant. "So what are you saying?" "We're saying you need to move on," Brian said. "Find new friends, find a new bar, find a new life, because this one isn't working anymore." I felt something snap inside me. You know what? You're right. This isn't working anymore, because I thought I had friends who would stick by me when things got tough. But instead, I had a bunch of cowards who sided with my ex-wife because she cried prettier than I did. "Derek," Jake started. "No, I'm done. You want me to find new friends? Fine. But don't pretend this is about me going too far. This is about you guys being too weak to stand up for what's right." I left the bar and didn't look back. Over the next month, I threw myself into work. I inspected foundations, filed reports, and tried to pretend that my personal life hadn't imploded. But everywhere I went, I could feel people watching me, whispering about the guy who'd sued his own wife. The check from Melissa arrived exactly 30 days after the court date. $1,469, just like the judge ordered, but it didn't feel like a victory anymore. It felt like the most expensive lesson I'd ever learned about the difference between being right and being happy. I was depositing the check when I ran into Louise Chen, my neighbor from the apartment building. She was one of the few people who still talked to me. "Derek, how are you holding up?" "I'm fine, Louise, just taking care of some business." She glanced at the check in my hand. "Is that from Melissa?" "Court-ordered payment for property damage." Louise nodded knowingly. "I heard about the case. Good for you for standing up for yourself." "Thanks. It feels like you're the only one who thinks so." "Well," Louise said, lowering her voice, "maybe this will change your mind about things." She pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. It was Melissa and some guy I didn't recognize, kissing outside a restaurant downtown. The timestamp showed it was from 2 weeks before she'd come to my apartment and asked for a divorce. "I took this when I was having dinner with my sister," Louise said. "I wasn't sure if I should show you, but after everything that's happened..." I stared at the photo. The guy was tall, muscular, wearing an expensive suit. He had his hands on Melissa's waist, and she was looking at him the way she used to look at me. "How long?" I asked. "I don't know, but Derek, there's more." She swiped to another photo. Same guy, same restaurant, but this time Katie was there too. All three of them laughing and drinking wine like old friends. "Katie knew," I said. "It looks like it." I handed the phone back, feeling numb. "Thanks for showing me." "I'm sorry, Derek. I know this doesn't make things easier." But she was wrong. It made things much, much easier. That night, I sat in my apartment, now fully repaired and better than ever, and thought about everything that had happened, the divorce, the lawsuit, losing my friends, becoming the town pariah. All of it because I'd insisted on holding Melissa accountable for her actions. But now I knew the truth. She hadn't just destroyed my apartment in a fit of rage. She'd been planning to leave me for weeks, maybe months. The whole scene had been theater, designed to make me the bad guy so she could play the victim, and it had worked perfectly. She got her divorce, kept her reputation, and even turned my own friends against me. Meanwhile, I got $1,400 and a reputation as the psycho ex-husband who couldn't let go. I opened my laptop and started typing. The next morning, I created a Facebook account under a fake name and posted Louise's photos with a simple caption. "Saw this 2 weeks before she filed for divorce. Guess we know why she was so eager to get out." I tagged everyone I could think of. Mutual friends, former coworkers, people from high school. Within an hour, the post had been shared 50 times. By the end of the day, it was all over town. My phone started ringing around noon. Jake. Derek, what the hell did you do? I told the truth. You posted private photos of Melissa online. That's revenge porn, man. That's illegal. They're not private photos. They were taken in public by a third party, and there's nothing pornographic about them. You know what I mean. You're trying to humiliate her. I'm giving people context they should have had from the beginning. Jake was quiet for a long moment. This isn't going to end well for you. It already didn't end well for me, but at least now everyone knows why. The calls kept coming all day. Tom, Brian, even some people I hadn't talked to in years. Everyone wanted to know if the photos were real, if Melissa had really been cheating, how long I'd known. I answered honestly, yes, they were real. Yes, she'd been cheating. No, I hadn't known until yesterday. By evening, the narrative had completely shifted. Suddenly, I wasn't the psycho ex-husband who couldn't let go. I was the wronged party who'd been unfairly vilified for standing up for himself. The vindication felt better than the court victory, better than the check, better than anything I'd felt in months. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. The next morning, I drove to Katie's office building downtown. She worked for some marketing firm on the 15th floor, the kind of place where everyone wore suits and talked about synergy and paradigm shifts. I took the elevator up and walked into the reception area like I belonged there. I'm here to see Katie Morrison, I told the receptionist. Do you have an appointment? She'll want to see me. Tell her it's Derek Sullivan. 5 minutes later, Katie came storming out of the elevator. What are you doing here? We have a restraining order. The restraining order is against contact with Melissa, not you, and this is a public building. Get out before I call security. I just wanted to thank you, I said, loud enough for the receptionist and several other people to hear. Thank me for what? For helping me understand what really happened. See, I thought Melissa left me because she was unhappy with our marriage, but now I know she left me because she was already with someone else, and you knew about it the whole time. Katie's face went white. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? I pulled out my phone and showed her Louise's photo. This was taken 2 weeks before Melissa came to my apartment and destroyed my stuff. 2 weeks before she asked for a divorce. And look who's sitting right there at the table. Several people had stopped to listen. Katie grabbed my arm and tried to pull me toward the elevator. We're not doing this here. Why not? This is where you work, right? Where you make your living giving people advice about marketing and public relations. I bet your clients would be interested to know how you handled your own sister's public relations problem. Stop it. You helped her plan the whole thing, didn't you? The dramatic scene at my place, the victim act turning my friends against me. It was all designed to make sure she came out looking innocent. That's not... And it worked perfectly. Until now. I looked around at the small crowd that had gathered. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Katie Morrison, marketing expert and professional accomplice. She helped her sister cheat on her husband and then made sure the husband got blamed for everything that went wrong. Katie was crying now, but I wasn't done. The best part is, she made me think I was crazy for wanting my wife to pay for the property she destroyed. Made me think I was the bad guy for not just rolling over and taking it. But now we all know the truth, don't we, Katie? Security arrived and escorted me out, but the damage was done. By the time I got home, Katie had deleted all her social media accounts. By the end of the week, word was spreading that she'd taken a leave of absence from work. I felt a deep satisfaction knowing that both sisters were finally facing consequences for their actions. But I still wasn't finished. The final piece came together when I ran into Melissa's new boyfriend at the grocery store. He was exactly what I'd expected. Tall, handsome, the kind of guy who probably spent more on hair products than I spent on groceries. You're Derek, right? He said, extending his hand. I'm Brad. I didn't shake it. I know who you are. Look, man, I want you to know that nothing happened between Melissa and me until after she left you. I almost laughed. Is that what she told you? It's the truth. I pulled out my phone and showed him Louise's photo. This was taken 2 weeks before she left me, Brad, so either you're lying or she's lying to both of us. Brad stared at the photo, his confident smile fading. She said this was after... She said a lot of things. The question is, what else has she lied to you about? I left him standing there in the cereal aisle, staring at his phone like it might have different answers if he looked at it long enough. 2 days later, I got a call from Jake. Derek, you need to stop. Stop what? Whatever you're doing to Melissa and Katie. Word is getting around that you're stalking them, harassing them at work, posting their personal business online. I'm not stalking anyone, and I'm not posting anything that isn't true. That's not the point. You're destroying their lives. They destroyed mine first. So this is revenge? I thought about that for a moment. No, Jake, this is justice. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've become exactly what everyone said you were. And what's that? The kind of man who can't let go. The kind of man who punishes people for not loving him. I hung up on him, but his words stuck with me. Was that what I'd become? The villain in my own story? I was still thinking about it when my phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. Derek, this is Brad. We need to talk. We met at a coffee shop downtown, neutral territory. Brad looked like he hadn't slept in days. She's been lying to me, he said without preamble, about when we started seeing each other, about why she left you, about everything. I figured you'd work that out eventually. She told me you were abusive, that you threatened her, that she was afraid of you. And now? Now I've seen the video of what really happened that night. She sent it to me, trying to prove her point, but all it proved was that she's been lying from the beginning. I sipped my coffee and waited for him to continue. I broke up with her yesterday, Brad said. And she went crazy, started throwing things, screaming, threatening to kill herself if I left her. Sounds familiar. She's not well, Derek. I think she needs help. That's not my problem anymore. Brad nodded. I know, I wanted you to know that I'm sorry. For my part in all this. I should have asked more questions before I got involved with a married woman. Yeah, you should have. For what it's worth, I think you handled this whole thing with more class than I would have. I almost laughed. Class? I've spent the last 2 months systematically destroying my ex-wife's reputation. You've spent the last 2 months telling the truth about what she did to you. There's a difference. Maybe there was. Or maybe we were both just telling ourselves whatever we needed to hear to sleep at night. Either way, it was over. Melissa had lost her boyfriend, her sister was hiding from the world, and I had my money and my vindication. But I still felt empty. That night, I was sitting in my apartment when someone knocked on the door. I looked through the peephole and saw Melissa standing in the hallway, looking smaller and more fragile than I'd ever seen her. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. What do you want, Melissa? I want to apologize. For what? For all of it. For cheating on you, for lying about it, for destroying your things, for turning your friends against you. For everything. I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation, but all I saw was exhaustion. Why now? Because I've lost everything, Derek. My boyfriend, my friends, my job. Even Katie won't talk to me anymore. And you think an apology is going to fix that? I think it's the right thing to do. Finally. We stood there for a long moment, looking at each other across the threshold of the apartment where our marriage had ended. I accept your apology, I said finally. But it doesn't change anything. I know. She wiped her eyes. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry, and that you were right to stand up for yourself. I would have walked all over you if you'd let me. Yeah, you would have. Can I ask you something? Was it worth it? All the fighting and the lawsuits and the revenge? Do you feel better now? I thought about that question for a long time. Did I feel better? I had my money, my vindication, my reputation restored. Melissa and Katie were facing consequences for their actions, and everyone knew the truth about what had really happened. But I'd also lost most of my friends, become the kind of person who posted revenge photos on social media, and spent 2 months of my life consumed with anger and payback. I feel like I did what I had to do, I said finally. Melissa nodded. I guess that's something. She turned to leave, then looked back. For what it's worth, Derek, you deserved better than what I gave you. I hope you find someone who appreciates what a good man you are. After she left, I sat in my apartment for a long time, thinking about everything that had happened. The destruction, the lawsuit, the revenge, the truth, the apologies. In the end, I'd gotten everything I'd wanted. Justice, vindication, consequences for the people who'd wronged me. But sitting there in my perfectly repaired apartment, surrounded by new furniture and old memories, I realized that getting everything you want isn't the same as being happy. Still, as I looked around at the space I'd rebuilt from the wreckage Melissa had left behind, I felt something close to peace. I'd stood up for myself when everyone told me to back down. I'd fought for what was right when it would have been easier to just walk away. Maybe that wasn't happiness, but it was something. It was self-respect. And sometimes that has to be enough.